introduction of ma'am, Ms. Nandini Sarkar, who is currently in the capacity of the Global Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Leader for India in the Boeing Company. So, so where do I start? She's a chef who missed her calling, misses no chance in cooking up a delectable platter of diverse workforce mix. A girl from tea gardens in Northeast India, born to migrant parents in India, having a degree in English literature and law, who has traveled far and wide beyond industries and geography to be the most sought after thought leader, a professional with over 2 decades of HR experience who identifies herself as an inclusion strategist, a policy and advocacy coach, a mentor, and an influencer, whose passion nudges her to make an impact touching every possible diversity dimensions and tackling intersectionality. She is associated with cross-industry bodies like CII, Indian Women Network, over 5 years now, currently the vice chairperson for the Karnataka chapter, a leadership steering committee member of Southern region of CII Women Network, and CSR and Affirmative Action Subcommittee member of Southern Region CII, an active member in a citizens movement like No Rape India, Women in Technology, and NGOs. She is a speaker in industry panels and conducts several masterclasses, and which is obviously a testimony that we have you at this very point of time. And she's been invited to many educational institutions that includes IMA and several others. She's been felicitated with international awards and recognition for her relentless work for social impact beyond that goes beyond boundaries, organizational boundaries for that matter. And she believes firmly that it's not what you gather, but what you scatter. And I must say that's a very interesting thought. Over to you, ma'am.
So now
Sure.
we are seated at various parts of India. And if I ask you, how would you want to describe India as you see in this image? A quick 1 or 2 response should be fine. You can do it in your chat box, or if there is a possibility of unmuting and speaking, that's also fine. How would
Yeah.
you describe India in this map or in this image?
Yeah, you can raise your hand if you want to answer. Yeah, Garima, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, Garima.
Yeah,
Yes, Garima.
I would say India looks more like it's uniform. The map, if I see in the picture, it's more like a uniform structure there.
Fantastic. Any other response? Any other hand raised? Fine.
Yeah, Arvind, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, on the looks of it, India looks at the center of the map. I think it connects the various other countries. It is connected to various other countries. That's what I see it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Let me give you how I see it. So I see India, as you rightly said, Arvind, that is in the middle of the image. It connects countries and continents. We had Garima speaking about its unique nature being standing out. What if I say India is a growth market? India is one of the most promising economies of the world today. It's yellow as it appears on the image. Now, if you look at all the responses that Garima, Arvind, and I'm trying to offer here, none of the responses are incorrect. They are correct by their own rights. Let's have the next image projected, please. Again, if I try to describe how India looks, it comparatively becomes very insignificant. The yellow color has merged into green, and we see other continents more prominent. And we see India a little lesser significance there. Now, what I'm trying to bring in here is the important understanding of how perceptions and cognitive diversity matters. That's how we need to harness the potential of our diversity or cognitive diversity with which each one of us walks into the different walks of the life. Nothing is wrong, nothing is absolutely irrelevant, but what is relevant to the context is picked up. So I give you this important understanding, because at workplaces or whatever maybe your working environment, or even if you're working as project team members in your campus, in your educational institutions, you will see that there are certain ideas which are presented, but not all ideas are worked upon. At the same time, there are certain interventions which are promoted, but not all. Look at the internal dimensions of diversity that are at play: age, ethnicity, gender, physiological aspect, race, and religion. We can understand that still. Look at the external and the organizational aspect. If you look at the external, it's very difficult to assess which economic status I come from. How have I grown up? Because I am driven by my personality type, which is the core identity of who I am. And my core identity has been built because of certain external and internal influences that I have grown up as a human being. If we look at the organizational dimensions at workplace, or be it in an entrepreneurial setup, whichever is the setup that you're operating in, you can click the next one, please. That will have the organizational dimension. It talks about a different mindset. And here I'll give you an example. I have been part of many mergers and acquisitions in my organization. What happens is, there is a typical mindset of a subsidiary who gets merged into a parent company. And when that merger happens, there is a culture already existing in the parent company, and there is a subculture. So there is bound to be a gap. There is bound to be a lot of conflicts with those, I would say, this culture and the subculture. But at the same time, let me also tell you, looking at each of these challenges and conflicts, we D&I practitioners are called into action to do a climate assessment of the cultures and also ensure certain recommendations that are passed on to the business in order to drive those changes to bring in a parity. But believe me, driving that parity, driving that equanimity, driving that fairness and transparency is not an easy job, because in this slide you are already aware of the multivariate dimensions of diversity. Diversity and inclusion is nothing beyond science, and that's where it has to be a recurrent conversation to be able to ensure that everybody is elevated to a quality understanding of what diversity is. So can you just put the arrow and give yes. So basically here we are trying to talk about how we understand diversity. We need to understand the geopolitical environment, the country that we operate in, the ruling political party, as to how I matters in inclusion. And inclusion is a feeling, and inclusion is a feeling which ensures that one is heard, seen, valued, and respected. It creates a sense of belonging, it creates a sense of empowerment, it creates a sense of progression, and it also creates a sense of respect. Mostly intangible. Data cannot come here. Though we try to measure it through employee engagement surveys, we try to do some dipstick climate dimension surveys to understand how the climate is, the culture is within the teams, within the sub functions or business units. However, it is not foolproof. It's all about how I feel. Do I feel belong? Do I feel respected? Do I get to be seen? And do I have a voice? If I'm speaking anything which is not working right, do I have the psychological safety to voice that. So it's an amalgamation of multifacets. And if you feel that you are not respected at the workplace, there can be a dip in your productivity. So when we talk about productivity, the dip in the productivity results in mental health issues. So when we talk about emotional well-being, when we talk about mental health, again, inclusion comes in. So if any cases are reported, we need to have clarity, but we do not have a certainty as to when COVID will say goodbye to us. So let's have the clarity around. There are a host of informations coming our way. Let's exercise our judgment as to which would be those authentic, relevant sources that I would go by in order to get my information, which will feed into me and help me prepare better. So as you see, prepare versus plan, we need to be prepared in terms of resilience, in terms of agility, in terms of adaptability to brace the normal, the new normal, not only with COVID, but with any life situations. And that's where the importance of life skills come in. So you prepare yourself, you have a clarity. So let's not fall into those traps. Open your Johari window and carry a calculated risk appetite, because without risks, you actually cannot get the best out of yourself. So hi.
Ma'am, thank you so much for such an empowering session today. Ma'am, I have to ask that we being a part of this organization, like for our college as well, we through the session we've understood that it's important to include everyone to the important traits that we need to have being a leader, right? But I do want to know that we did see in the poll as well that some of the students still felt that they won't be able, they won't like included, or they couldn't be themselves. So in order, like, we can obviously as a group can help them or can include them, but for them to also reach out to us. So if there was something you could tell us, like how do we reach out if we feel like that?
So there could be couple of approaches here. And before I start mentioning those, let me talk about the introvert and the extrovert angle. There would always be the introvert group and the extrovert group. At the same time, there would be somebody who has certain life experiences which makes that person go quiet, but otherwise the person is not an introvert. So it's very difficult to enable them to come out. So as a member of a body that you mentioned, it's always necessary that whenever you are having your communication campaigns, whenever you are having your senior faculty members addressing the cause of leadership, diversity and inclusion, including naming those dimensions of diversity, is crucial. Now, I'll give you an example.
Session. Ma'am, I just wanted to know your views on, like, can we consider diversity as an indicator for inclusiveness?
So diversity measures the differences. Inclusion measures a feeling. How am I feeling? I showed you that pictorial graph, right? Yeah. Am I having enough conversations with my manager, for example, in terms of my career aspirations and my next move? Am I getting ample opportunities to develop my skill sets, which are part of my individual development plan? So those are feelings. So those are two different scores. However, they could be married to give an overall scorecard.
Sure, ma'am. Thanks.
Session was really, insightful. You brought in some really important aspects of life today at workplace and also in neighborhoods. I mean, we have diversity everywhere, and that is something which is also, I mean, thankfully, our part of our DNA of Symbiosis Hyderabad campus. And I think your session has actually reinforced that idea among our students for sure, because the kind of I would say path or journey that one should chalk out towards appreciating diversity was very interesting.